Bonjour. Bonjour à...
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Thomas. I'm delighted to be with you today for this conversation. You founded 1803, so you're going to tell us a little bit more about it. I like asking, when I meet an entrepreneur, I like to ask what was the initial intention. You worked on denim jeans, so a globalized product, a symbol of American culture, and you decided to make denim in France. What was the initial intention? What triggered this initiative? 1803 is a brand that I created in 2013. But initially, very initially, I used to be an IT engineer in Grenoble. I was working 7 to 8 hours a day for 40 years. Usually that's what you do, right? And I just couldn't put so much time into an activity that I was not aligned with. And on top of that, my parents were living in Romans. I loved that house because it was my grandparents' house, and I'd go there every weekend. And as it turns out, this house was across from a fire station, which became a Mark Avenue. And it was in 2006, and I just didn't, so I didn't like fashion. And because there was a factory outlet across from my parents' home, selling clothes from all over the world at a very low cost, and I thought I wanted to do the opposite. I wanted organic and fair products, and open a store across the street from that. And I was a client, a Veja client that we heard about this morning, and I created this store of brands with only organic products. And I didn't think I'd create a denim brand. And then in 2012, 2013, I learned a lot, and I started becoming interested in fashion. As an IT engineer, I didn't really care so much about fashion at the time, but had I worn someone else's suit, I wouldn't have been comfortable. But that's when I understood that fashion is important, even when you're not interested in it. And fashion is important because it meets an essential need. This way you're not cold and you're not naked. And in Romans you can find beautiful shoes. When we were cavemen, we didn't physiologically need to be dressed. We were like animals, we were naked. But as soon as mankind started to develop, we needed clothes. We started needing clothes. And if you start thinking about fashion as an emotional need and not a physiological need, that's when I understood why fashion was so important. And that's why I understood why it was such an important medium to share your beliefs. And first, between 2006 and 2013, I started selling fair, organic, made in France clothes and shoes. But over these 6 years, I started to understand that people are responsible. And I saw it because when you sell fair products and you talk about what's behind it, no one is in favor of child labor or pollution. No one puts pesticides on the tomatoes that they grow in their garden. So everyone's organic and everyone's environmentally friendly when they have a responsibility. And I was really frustrated by this distance because I had products and my clients were quite enthusiastic, and I knew that we need to stop this distance because I understood that people felt disconnected from the consequences of the choices that they were making because it was so far away. And because we don't see the consequences of what we do because it's so far away. So I thought we should have this local approach a little bit more, and it would make people feel more engaged. And that meant that beyond having this fair approach, I wanted a made in France product, or if not made in not too far from here, and have consequences directly visible also wanted to have this very few middlemen. And I wanted to have this local trend and style. And what's interesting in terms of denim is that you have a lot of products that you're not supposed to wear. If you work in a bank and you put a T-shirt that has a hole in it, it won't work. And if you're a teenager and you wear the banker's tuxedo, it's not going to work. But denim, you can be left wing, right wing, a man, a woman, French, Vietnamese. We wear jeans, we wear denim, and I thought it was quite radical. These radical ideas applied to a rather universal product was interesting. In 2013, I really started, and I wanted to sell 100 jeans, only in Romans, and then we sold 1,000. And it was my brother and I, and that's how it all started. Why that name though? When 1083, it means that it's the furthest distance between Romans and where parts of our denims are manufactured, because when things are happening too far away from us, we don't feel accountable. Not that we don't want to take our responsibilities, but rather that we don't feel connected to the consequences. Well, thank you. Sébastien was talking about made in France, about Veja, and the difference between design in France and made in France is not always clear. But for 1083, what are you doing? Sébastien's right. There are people who will always cheat, who will play on words, use French flags, even though products have not been made in France. The design in France makes you think that it was made in France, but it wasn't necessarily done. There are certifications, thankfully, to have a denim certified by an external body, just like when you have organic cotton, etc. You have EcoCert, AFNOR, Veritas that audit us. And for a denim, if you want to be made in France, certified, it needs to be sewed in France, but also weaved in France. Because denim comes from Nîmes, the city of Nîmes, and it would have been impossible for a denim jeans not to be woven in France. Americans think that it's American because it's the Wild Wild West. And in India, they think that it's theirs because the indigo color comes from India. For the Germans, they think that denim is theirs because they invented synthesized denim in the 19th century. So it's really interesting because it has an identity that everyone is making in their own. And it's fascinating to look at this identity and to defend models that you like and styles that you like. So what about the plants that you have in France? Can you tell us a little bit more about where they're located? To make denim, you have 8 steps. First, you need to manufacture fiber. It either comes from recycling from organic cotton, linen, hemp. This raw material, then we weave them to create a torsade. Once we have your thread, you dye it, because in jeans you have one white and one blue thread, so you need to dye them before you weave them. Once you've dyed it, you can weave it. Then you can treat the textile so it doesn't change color, and then create a tie and dye if you need it. So that's 8 steps for it. The raw materials are mainly imported for us from Tanzania. So it's organic cotton. When it's recycled fiber, they always come from France, from French sources. So either from our clients or waste from what we've done. The dye is made in France and in Italy. My jumper remains red. That's because we make dye in France. But indigo products, indigo dyes, it's difficult to find in France because we don't make them anymore. And the closest we can get it is Italy. Same for the spinning. We don't have cotton mills in France anymore, so we have to go to Italy. And that's how we are certified. As for shoes, to go back to what Seb was saying, it's quite interesting. In France, you can make, at a small scale, the sewing of the upper. You can assemble, you can cut the material, but there are some materials that are no longer available in France, including soles. Now, there are industrial players that are working on them, but you can't find them on the shelves yet. Reindustrializing our regions in textile and other is something that is extremely popular. It's something that we hear about a lot. And at the same time, we do hear that it's complicated for different reasons. And in the adventure of production, and in this journey for production of your jeans, what's a block? What's a pain point? What's hard? What are the obstacles? But could you also tell us what helped you, what made it easier for you? Well, in the industry is about being able to fend for your needs. And I think that one of my values is freedom. If you're not capable of producing what you need, then it won't work. As soon as the world becomes complicated, you depend on too many people. And I think we are no longer capable of we need to be able to meet our own needs. And the masks, the surgical masks that we needed, we're not able to make this piece of fabric with 2 elastics. That was crazy. And industry, I think, is about life. It's also a place where you have different socioeconomic categories that are combined, where different regions can be brought together. So relaunching the industrial activity is essential. It's essential for our cities, and it's something that should bring us together. When a plant closes down, this is something that impacts regions, cities altogether. This is something that is very intimate. There are a lot of cities in our regions that have a vitality, and that's thanks to the industrial network that they have. And when we look at our industrial state, and if you start industrializing France again, to buy machines, you get funds, you get trainings available for people the stuff that you need. But what's harder to build again, it's industrial culture. In the Vosges region, 80% of our textiles are woven in Les Vosges and 20% in Loire. This plant is in Rue-sur-Noiselle, a 2,000 inhabitant city. And when we make textile, you use compressed air that pushes your thread, and that pushes it second after second. And you need a lot of compressed air. And it's really expensive. So we hadn't changed it. But in order to make energy savings, we bought a new compressor, because this old compressor that was very noisy also consumed a lot of energy. And we changed the compressor, and the whole town told us, "Oh, thank God, that was so noisy. I could barely hear it anymore because I couldn't notice it anymore." And this is about culture here, because people are no longer used to that noise anymore. So if we put another compressor that's silent, that's not as silent, people may not accept it anymore, even though they've been accepting it for over 100 years. So this acceptance of the industry is something that's difficult to find. And where culture can really help is also to valorize jobs. The industry is a manual job. industrial activities is manual. And that's not something that is well considered. I don't know if you've been to university or college. You were depending on the Ministry of Superior Education, which is not nice because it's considered that manual jobs are not superior or inferior. And if you worked at a plant, chances are you don't have an exact name for what you're doing. You're called an operator. What does it say about your role in this culture? And our cultures are very downgrading for manual jobs. The truth is, in a plant, if there's someone missing at the top level of a plant, it's not going to work. But it's not going to work either if you are missing an operator. And there's just as much importance, and that's not something that we feel that we see anymore in our plants. So we need to recreate that. So of course, if you go and recreate this industrial activity somewhere where you used to have this kind of industry, for instance in Romans, in the Drôme region, we were initially a region known for making shoes. But when you make a plant and when you're making denim, it's difficult to recruit people because it's more cool to make a Vuitton jeans than to make a Vuitton bag than a 1083 jeans. And we went to Vosges, the Vosges region, where it's historically known for linen and then cotton weaving. And that's where a lot of labor clothes were manufactured in the 18th, 19th century. You have a lot of generations in the Vosges that have someone in their family that's worked there in the textile industry, and that's something that's declined, and people are kind of sad, just like here. And in going to Vosges, I didn't know this industry, and they're sad because of what they've lost. But what's incredible for me to see is what they've been able to keep. And in the Vosges, you still have a little bit of workshops. You still have places where they make linen, for instance, but because they're good at making textile, it's actually for them, it's much cooler to make a 1083 jeans that's easier to recruit in the Vosges region than in Drôme because of this cultural aspect. You were mentioning the 1083 jeans and the Vuitton bag. According to you, what is the brand's importance in the acceleration of fashion consumption? What's the impact of the brand? The brand is a medium between the sector and the consumer. The sector is something important. That's when we lose it that we realize how important it is. It creates a full ecosystem when you have a sector present in a region. There was someone from BRICS that was here yesterday that was talking about the fact that they support CEOs so that they're more efficient, etc. And that's what we're trying to do at our industry level, and that's what brands can do as well. Sébastien earlier was reacting to the notion of storytelling, and he was saying that he was almost hurt that someone told him that he was doing storytelling. And I would have felt the exact same way. I would have reacted the same thing. Storytelling is about telling a story when what we do is share our story, because we're able to just open our doors, open our arms and say, well, there you go and see for yourselves. And the brands that decide to have storytelling, they're selling an image. It can be a little bit frustrating in a way because it's fake. And when 1083 started in 2013, I looked at the price of an H&M jeans and a Levi's jeans. There was one that was sold for 30 euros and another one for 120 euros. I thought, well, that's the difference is probably because of the labor conditions or the raw material. But they were both coming from Bangladesh, Vietnam, Turkey, Pakistan, and I thought that these jeans that were so different were actually the same. So what it meant is that the working conditions were the same. And the price was different. So I thought, well, I'd rather go up for fast fashion. At least they're honest about what they're doing. I told you that when I started this denim, I wanted to create this emotion, and I understood why fashion brands are investing in advertisement because they want to sell an emotion even before they sell a product that's efficient or technical specificity of a product. And brands can make a choice through their model to either share or tell a story. And because we don't have the means of advertising a lot, we do a little bit. We have a small margin, and this way we invest a lot in industry. The only way we have to share emotions, because we don't have the resources to be very visible, is to give enough meaning and to those who discover us, so that they discover our brand. And that's how we've been growing since the beginning, for the past 11 years. And in terms of experience, brand experience, for instance, I guess you organize tours of your plant. Yes. When you go to a winemaker, you buy a bottle of wine. It could be the same bottle of wine that you buy at the supermarket. It tastes the same price. But if you buy it at the vineyard, just because of the emotions that you felt when you were there, will open up something in you differently than when you're at the supermarket, and your emotions are going to be multiplied to the point that you're going to feel more engaged and you're going to find that wine better. And you're not going to drink more, but you're going to drink better. And when you might buy more, but when you'll have friends over, you may say, well, this is how it felt. I love this emotion. And what matters is not so much the product itself, but rather the emotions that you felt and that you share. Same for fashion, because we don't have the resources to buy our visibility with the marketing campaigns. The only way that we have to be known by people is our plants, our know-how, and because we see that it's very engaging for consumers to know how clothes are made, we open our doors more and more. So that's true. We organize production so that we can visit the plant. It's extremely engaging, not only for the consumers, because they see that jeans don't grow on trees and that there's a know-how that you need. And we have them, we do fittings. We did something also where we give the pattern, and we tell people, guys, here's the pattern, try and make it at home. And it takes them something along the lines of 10 hours, and it's not very well done. They understand why they have to pay 130 euros, and they understand what they're buying, and they'll replace their desire to have many pieces of jeans by having the pleasure of having only one jeans that's well made. I forget what I was about to say. You also have ambassadors that are talking about your brand. Yes, that's really nice. That was surprising. We didn't have them up until now. For 10 years, we were really focused on rebuilding the industry, weaving, etc. There were 100 of us working in the company, 50 people in production, and 50 working at the headquarters and in Romont and in the stores. So it's really 50-50, and it's difficult and hard to recreate this sector. It's still very fragile. And what was your question? The ambassadors, yes. When you focus so much on production, organization, etc., you don't have time to focus on creation. It's starting because we have the means to do it now. And the more you create, which is what we initially wanted to do, the more we attract creative people around us, designers, artists. We're really lucky to dress Ibrahim Malouf for his tour. 2 weeks ago, we sent jeans to Denis Brognard, and he was wearing jeans on Koh-Lanta. That's improbable for us. It's improbable. It's unfathomable. But we have celebrities without any financial compensation. We just gave them a pair of jeans, and it's just great to see that little by little, our product that was very, how can I put it, activist, is becoming more and more desirable, and that's a reward. And it was fascinating to hear Sébastien earlier. And we see that he started with one product and that was it. That was their incredible talent. Their product remains their talent nowadays. That's not how it started. We really started from the desire to create an industry, to recreate the conditions to then be able to create beautiful products. And now here we are, we have this beautiful product, but it took us 11 years. 1083 is a radical brand. What do you mean by that? I like radical, the word radical, because it means that there are things that don't seem consistent. But if you want to engage people without marketing, without advertisement, how can I put it? But you need to federate things and people and values. And because there are values, it was easy. We've never done any sales campaign. Sales make sense for seasonal products when you need to sell unsold products. But for a product such as jeans, it doesn't make sense to sell jeans on sale. Especially, they usually ask the retailer in order to be able to offer sales at the end of the year to increase their margin throughout the year. So for 1 month of sale, the other 11 months of the year the product is more expensive. So we don't have any Black Friday campaign or sales campaign. We have a fair price throughout the year. We don't stimulate overconsumption. We offer to consumers a choice, and they choose the jeans that they like. The first one wasn't the best. The second was better. The third one was even better. I love the jeans that we're making today, but I'm sure that in 5 years' time we'll be like, oh wow, we could have done better back in 2024. We're so much prouder of this one. All of our jeans are 100% organic or recycled. Everything's made in France. And in the notion of radical, you have the roots. That means that we went to identify the needs. The fashion is about creating an identity, about sharing who you are. And that was replaced by the desire to want and to have and to overconsume. We want to enjoy being rather than having. We don't want to push people to overconsume jeans. We want people, if they choose in 1083, we want these jeans to replace 4 jeans of fast fashion. We don't want to sell many jeans to these people. We just want our clients to be so convinced that they tell everyone around them who will want them to want to buy our products. We don't want to sell as many jeans to as many people. We want to sell a minimum of jeans to as many people, because we just want to engage people so that they talk about us and so that they can bring their friends in fashion to us. You're talking about fast fashion. We've also seen these first few years ultra fast fashion, slow fashion that 1083 is part of. It is a minority in a way in this global landscape. And to go back to the theme of this World Forum, do you feel like you're a little offbeat with this initiative? And if so, what does it mean for you to be offbeat? Well, sometimes you're quite happy when you're offbeat, because we were ahead of our time when we recreated a denim industry in France when it had disappeared. 67 million jeans are sold in France every year. And in clothing, there are around 3 to 4% of the clothes that are made in France that are sold in France. In grated cheese and another industrial product, it's actually 60 or 70% of grated cheese that is made in France. And jeans is 0.15%, and in 2013 it was 0. So made in France is really low in the clothing industry, and yet it's still something that we did. That was our drive, because we decided that if there were no more jeans manufactured in France, that was because the cost of manufacturing was too expensive. But when we compared an H&M jeans and Levi's jeans, we realized that that's not what it was. With the Levi's price, we could still make a made in France product, and that's what's allowed us to be ahead of our time. But the life of a company is sometimes difficult, sometimes it's hard. You have highs and lows. You don't really know why, but it's sometimes a roller coaster. But we had production issues at one point in 2023, 2024 that really hurt us, economically speaking. We're just coming out of it, and now things are good, and we come out stronger from it. And at the same time, this rough patch that we've experienced showed weaknesses in our organization, which we've improved now. So it's helped structure our organization, but we were offbeat in the way that we were not able to structure properly on everything, and we were offbeat, and it was quite negative. But at the same time, when we talk about that to our other entrepreneurs, they tell us that they've gone through the same thing. So when you look inwards, you can be desperate, but when you also look at what others are doing, it consoles you. And if you look at the macro level, we do see that this is an initiative that's completely offbeat. We're leader in made in France denim jeans. 0.07% of the French market. It's nothing. It's tiny. So we don't know how much we'll grow. It will also depend on our capacity to create a robust industry in France and to offer and to make our jeans available to consumers.
Voilà, on est vraiment à contre-courant malheureusement.
I mean, we don't do that to be successful, because if that was the goal, I mean, we would probably be disappointed, so it would demotivate us. But it's too cool to have these products, to meet workshops, to try things, to create, to imagine, to think about new trends, new products, new designs. I mean, as we're doing it for us, I mean, we cannot lose our motivation. I mean, it's been created for the last 11 years, so I hope that we're not going to have an offbeat period. I mean, and I think that it's funny, I mean, when you look back on the textile industry in France, I mean, France was a huge textile producer in the past, I mean, even at world level. And a lot of our champions, industrial ones, have moved to the retail and distribution. A lot of brands no longer produce in France, but they've developed true empires as far as the distribution is concerned. But there's been a split between the French textile industry that's still going and the one that's moved to distribution. They were antagonists, and there was a delocalization by the ones that became distributors has penalized the lasting textile industrialist. Now the ultra-fast fashion is being really very aggressive, so it changes the model of the distribution because we've got a common enemy. So it was a little bit like during the Cold War, when the Russian and American presidents used to fight against one another, and it's basically what it is now. Okay, let's fight against one another, but if extraterrestrial people happen, will you support me? Yes, I mean, the extraterrestrial now is the fast fashion industry, and maybe that's gonna reunite us, and that's gonna reunite the distribution and the fabric production. There's the competition. I mean, now we can see that the fast fashion is committing and making commitment, like H&M and Zara, for instance. There's commitment as far as the environment is concerned at the social level, and even if the ultra fast fashion, there are commitments being agreed on. With your experience, with your know-how, could you also cooperate with stakeholders of the fast fashion for the common good, something that would be greater than that to improve the whole trend? It's difficult with the opposition between competition and cooperation, because we are in the midst of the competition, and I compete against the fast fashion. They're my enemies, so to speak, and Putin cooperates with Chinese. So competition is not just the bad ones, and cooperation is something else. So it depends who we roll in the dirt to be successful. It's important When we create workshops, creating 1083, that means being a trader, creating a brand, being stylist, creating the manufacturing workshops, creating the weaving. So it's learning lots of new skills, and to integrate these new skills, being the only contractor of this field is dangerous, because if weaving for 1883 or 1083 only works for 1083, that's dangerous, because if 1083 becomes old-fashioned, I mean, this person would be out of business. So we've got to be more proactive. We mustn't put all our eggs in the same basket. I mean, 1883 uses different weaving companies, and they work also for other brands, therefore. So we use the relationships we have to attract standard brands along the line, to get rid of some of their ideas and to get them to use the skills which got a little bit outdated. They so used to buying the clothes ready-made that they've lost the know-how on how it's built. I mean, buying the fabric and sending it to the creator, the manufacturer. So it's important, if we want them to cooperate with us, it's as we go along that we're going to be able to rebuild a total sector and process. We've got to we're not competing as such with them. I mean, we exchange ideas with them more. Any idea about, sorry, any questions from the audience at all?
Alors, je ne prendrai pas l'accent du Midi, mais je suis une famille de Nîmes.
You mentioned earlier on with the dyeing that a part was done in France, one in Italy. You said that indigo was no longer available in France. You talked about synthetic indigo. Are you starting to go back to using the plant? Two things with the dyeing. There are the coloring and the industrial processes, the coloring transfer onto the fiber. The coloring exists synthetically and naturally, but the indigo that we grow in France, the plant, there's the lecture blue and the indigo from Provence. It's very light. We don't get this deep indigo blue, the one that came from India or Bangladesh. So this natural indigo is not easy to source locally, but there are interesting initiatives in the R&D managing that to produce the blue from bacteria now. That's what I was going to tell you. I mean, beyond these natural materials, we can think about new blue. That's what I was talking about, yeah. And once we've got this blue, we've got to have the equipment to transfer the color onto the fiber. And when we have a reactive fiber, so as for my sweater here, we want this thread to be as red inside as outside the thread, in the heart of the thread as at the surface. But with the jeans, we want that with the time, the white color will come through the blue one. So that means that the thread must only be dyed on the surface. With my pullover, we're going to have a pressure in a steamer to transfer the color into the core of the thread. And as far as indigo is concerned, we're going to immerse the thread into a bath 7 or 8 times, so that by capillarity the thread is going to be tinted on the outside but never on the inside. Bonduelle did that in 2003, 2004. Other questions?
Merci, super intéressant. Et merci aussi de...
Thank you. That was very interesting, and thank you that I've heard a lot of things and learned about adding value. The economy of functionality, what is your opinion about that? I mean, you've talked a lot about we want to have rather than be. What is your opinion about the economy of functionality, that service, basically usage rather than owning? It makes sense sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Something which is worn on the long term is not suitable. And when we talk about clothes, we talk about material durability, but more important than that is the immaterial durability. In your on your hangers, you wear half of your clothes and the other half you don't wear, and the ones that you love are the ones you wear the most. The ones you don't wear are in very good state, and most of the ones you throw away are in a fine state. So material durability is not the same as emotional durability. Immaterial and emotional durability of the jeans is so long. We like to wear our jeans that so much that we wear jeans that are already worn. No other clothes does that. So the jeans as a product for us, I mean, we can't see the economy of functionality on a standard jean. Our children grow up and they wear their clothes 2, 3, 5 months, a year, and then they've grown out of them. Now there's a problem also for holes, so we made a pair of jeans for children. As in parts, we could cut a part of the leg and stitch on it a new part of the jeans. But we did that on an indigo jean, and after washing the jeans, I mean, the new bottom part of the trousers was not the same color as the top. So we've given up. We've given that up on the jeans, but we're going to experiment for pregnant women. The maternity jean will only be used for a couple of months, and then they will have their baby. So to sell them a pair of jeans, 130 euros for a couple of months is expensive, but to sell them the jeans or to rent the jeans, and we might pay back proportional to the number of months they've worn them. Imagine that we pay back 10 euros less, depending on the month it's been used. I mean, if you wear your jeans only 4 months, I mean, you're going to get a payback of 40 euros, and we get the jeans to be worn by another person. That's what we experiment. One bit of advice on the end of life of a pair of jeans: don't throw it away. Bring it back to Relais or dedicated textile bins, or bring it back to us so that we can take threads out of it to use these threads to build new ones. Thanks a lot. About the reindustrialization of the trend, the sector, you haven't been able to do everything. I mean, what was your priority? Did you what sector did you, or what section did you deal with first? We produce a lot of clothes, but we only focused on jeans and shoes, sneakers, jackets, sweaters, belts. We cooperated for all those products to take care of this production. We've got the Associated Factory, which is quite committed on the made in France, producing our sweatshirt. So we went to look for a sweatshirt specialist, and on the other hand, we produced a part of their jeans. So, but for the jeans, there was nothing available. So we got hold of that. And shoes, we supported a small sandal maker, asking them to assemble sneakers. And for jeans, we learned as we went along. We created a production workshop. Weaver from the Vosges had a problem of bankruptcy, so we took him on board. Between the risk of losing him altogether or the risk of getting him on board, I mean, we chose on the risk of getting him on board rather than losing it. this relocalization has been a little bit suffered somehow. You have so many steps, and you need to have all these steps for you to be able to produce. For us to become more robust is perma industry. We don't put everything in the same basket. We make circular the most possible things. We create the most robust team possible, rather than chain. I mean, we would have one link per job or per skill, and we want to make sure that if you've got an iron coat as the Knights wore, I mean, the links are intricate, and if one breaks, I mean, the others won't, so it'll hold strong.